Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Well, Elon Musk is now the richest person on the planet.
More than half the satellites in space are owned and controlled by one man.
Well, he's a legitimate super genius. I mean, legitimate.
He says he's always voted for Democrats, but this year it will be different. He'll vote Republican.
There is a reason the U.S. government is so reliant on him.
Elon Musk is a scam artist, and he's done nothing.
Anything he does is fascinating to people.
Welcome to Elon Inc., Bloomberg's weekly podcast about Elon Musk. It's Tuesday, September 3rd. I'm your host, David Papadopoulos. Welcome back from Labor Day. This week, it's all about X. We'll start with the ban of X in Brazil, and then we're going to hit Elon's latest election antics on, you guessed it, X. And we're going to wrap up by discussing his vision and dreams for X TV. Joining us to talk about that are some familiar faces. Max Chafkin.
Hey.
What's going on, Max? How are you?
Happy belated Labor Day.
Happy belated Labor Day. And to you, Kurt Wagner, a.k.a. number 8, and a social media reporter for us here at Bloomberg. Kurt?
Hey, David. How are you?
Good. All right, Kurt, we're going to start with you. Just give us an overview for those of us out there who were just at the beach, soaking up the rays, sipping summer martinis, and we're not following the ins and outs of Elon Musk and X versus the Brazilian Supreme Court. What has transpired and where do things stand there now?
Yeah, so I believe it was Friday, so a lot of people may have already been checked out for the long weekend, at least here in the U.S. A Brazilian judge basically cut off X or banned X for the entire country. And this had been the end result of a long saga that has played out over the last several months. The short version is that this judge, he wanted X to take action on certain accounts on the platform for sharing misinformation or anti-democratic content X. And Elon, of course, saying, well, free speech absolutism, said, no, we're not going to do that. As things sort of got more intense, the judge said, well, I'm going to arrest the person or attempt to arrest the person who is representing X in country.
That was weeks ago, the threat to arrest them, right?
That's right. We talked about that because then Elon's response to that was, well, we're going to leave the country entirely. We're going to, stay operational. You'll be able to use the app in Brazil, but we're not going to have employees there. There's not going to be anyone to arrest. And the judge then said, well, in order to operate here, you need someone here to basically answer questions for the company and receive, in this case, our complaints. You don't have anybody. The
entire ex-Brazilian staff cannot be working from home in the Bahamas.
Yeah. In Brazil, they need someone physically there to handle an issue like this. And so he says, you need to appoint a legal representative, otherwise I'm going to ban you. Elon says, more or less shove off. I'm not going to appoint anybody. And kind of, I don't know if he was attempting to call his bluff or just simply said, we'll be happy to be banned. I don't care. But the judge did follow through and banned X on Friday. I believe it's officially no longer working for people in Brazil. And it's a fine if you use a VPN to access it. It's a way to sort of redirect your internet traffic to maybe a server that's in another country, right? So you would first go to a server in a country where X is allowed, and then it sort of redirects it, and that way you get around the ban that way. But again, there's a fine for people who do that. So, we're at this point now where X is banned. The Supreme Court, the rest of the Supreme Court upheld the original judge's decision. So X can still appeal, but, we're kind of at this stage where things are looking like X is just gone unless Elon is willing to concede to some of these demands.
Mm.
A year ago, Elon Musk was asked by the government of Turkey to ban a bunch of accounts, and he went through with it under court order. And the explanation at the time offered was, yes, I'm a free speech absolutist, but the question is either, lose access to a handful of accounts in Turkey or lose access to the service altogether. And he argued, it's better to preserve X in Turkey. Making a different calculation here. Not entirely clear why, although I suppose Musk would argue that there was less transparency. Like one of the big reasons he offered at the time for opposing this order was that the judge was limiting what X could say about it. I don't know if that's significant enough to put the entire operations in the country at risk, but of course Elon Musk saw it that way. But what I think is actually going on here is you have Brazilian politics, which Elon Musk has already sort of entered the fray, right? He's attempted to cozy up to Bolsonaro.
Former president, sort of far-right president of Brazil, who I believe, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, who is closely allied with many of the accounts on X that the Brazilian Supreme Court wanted shut down.
Yeah, we know that because Twitter released a sort of sequel to the Twitter files called the Alexander files. That's the first name of the Brazilian justice who ordered this ban.
Alexandre de Moraes, right.
And thank you. And so right, it looks like 7 accounts. These are all sort of far-right aligned. It really feels like, you know, Elon Musk is inserting himself into Brazilian politics, has now, you know, decided to make this a thing, just as he's made, you know, his engagement in American politics a thing. He's, you know, posting memes. He's going to war over this. Yeah. And, you know, you can debate whether that makes sense as a principled stand. I think for X, it's not great news because Brazil is a pretty substantial market for social media.
Yeah, it's a big market for them from a user base standpoint, significantly less, you know, important from a financial standpoint. But we don't know exactly how many users because they've never broken those out. We've seen some estimates. I believe eMarketer said it was around 40 million monthly active accounts, which would put Brazil probably in the top 5, maybe even in the top 3 behind the United States and Japan in terms of total size for X. But revenue-wise, again, they've never broken it out. I was texting with a source over the weekend, and he told me that, you know, it used to be that Brazil was around 2% of global revenue for them. So, you know, those numbers obviously could be adjusted slightly since Elon has taken over. But point being is that it's a very small market for them from a business standpoint. It's possible that Elon is making a calculation here saying that, you know, taking this stand does not hurt them very much financially, but the benefits of looking or appearing to be the ultimate free speech guy on a global scale far outweigh what he's losing in actual business.
And to that point, it is my understanding that for not only the far right in Brazil and other places, but also in just some more mainstream conservative circles, this has become a bit of a cause celeb. In Brazil, I get the sense that there are a lot of factions who feel like this is a bit of overreach by the Supreme Court there. And then in some ways they are perhaps exacerbating the problem. It feels to me, though, Max, like at this point, though, each side, G. Moraes, the judge, and Elon Musk, really just have their backs up and are loath to back down at this point.
Right. What's sort of most extreme about this order, it's not the, you know, ordering X to suspend certain accounts, which is, as we said, has happened in other countries, and X has complied. To argue whether how significant the question of transparency really is, but this idea of putting a fine on VPN users, like that is a pretty
$9,000 a day. I
don't know that it's enforceable. Like a lot of authoritarian countries have really struggled to, including China, have really struggled to crack down on VPN use. But
and Brazil, to be clear, is not an authoritarian country.
I mean, Elon Musk is now saying this is, you know, this is evidence, you know.
But it is not.
No. But what I'm saying is there's a real question about whether this can be enforced even. But regardless of that, it's like threatening people with a fine, a significant fine for attempting to consume this content. Like that's pretty out there, right? That's pretty far away from what most countries have done in these situations. Most democratic countries have done in these situations.
It is something that I learned as a young reporter in Brazil, actually in the late 1990s, that the Brazilian Supreme Court likes to exercise its influence. It will not be cowed or bullied by anyone, and certainly not by Elon Musk. And to this point, it actually almost seems to have gotten into a bit of a tit-for-tat sort of personal thing with him that from afar seems a bit odd. Now, Kurt, tell us this. It seems that another key business of Musk's, SpaceX's Starlink unit, has gotten ensnared in this whole conflict. What's the situation there?
Well, so as part of the penalty that the judge is imposing on X includes some financial fines, financial penalties. And X is not paying those fines. But Starlink is in Brazil and prominent in Brazil and has bank accounts in Brazil. And so the judge instead is saying, well, Elon, if your one company is not going to pay the fines that are owed, we will just get the money from your other company. So I believe they froze the bank accounts from Starlink in order to pay these fines. I think this is such an interesting element of this whole thing because we've talked at length on this pod, of course, about sort of the constellation of Elon's companies, right? And the benefits at times of him pulling resources from Tesla to benefit others or vice versa. And here we're seeing the real negative of this, Elon connection because now he's being sort of threatened with one company by another. And this was a huge concern. You have to remember when Elon bought Twitter in late 2022, this was one of the biggest concerns was like, hey, you have all these other companies where governments could apply leverage on you, in China, in India, and other places. Are you prepared to deal with the fact that like Tesla could be used as a bargaining chip to get to X and the speech related issues at X? And it's been talked about, but this is the first time I think we've really seen it actually play out in a negative way for Elon.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Like this could be a canary in a coal mine situation where we could see other countries, probably not like the U.S., but other countries, attempt the same kind of thing. And, Elon Musk's SpaceX's response has been like, you can't, this is totally ridiculous. You're conflating, Elon Musk with SpaceX. But it's a little hard to make that argument when your CEO goes around acting like they're one and the same. But
is he not only is he CEO, like he is also of Tesla and other companies, but in the case of both SpaceX and of X, he is also majority shareholder. Does he not have a majority stake in SpaceX?
I think he definitely has. I think he's majority control. I'm not sure that he has.
But if you are the majority, you have majority control of a company, which again would not be the case with Tesla. I mean, you can almost sort of see it, right? The link. It's not crazy. Hey, you own this. You also own that. They're all essentially, units of a big.
And again, when you have a guy who goes around saying all these rules are BS, just like, let's just go, I don't pay attention to the ins and outs of securities laws. Like, I think it's much easier for regulators to say, come on, man, you are SpaceX. Like, and anyone who's looking, like, yeah, you can talk about the bylaws or whatever, or the cap table, but everybody knows, including people who work at SpaceX, that Elon Musk controls SpaceX, that these companies effectively operate like one conglomerate. So is it really surprising when a judge in Brazil or anywhere else treats them as such?
Okay, Max. So Musk has been eking up a storm about U.S. politics and the upcoming election in recent days, including, by the way, saying that Kamala Harris supports the banning of X there in Brazil. Eeks by eeks, what's it looked like?
Flipping on X yesterday and seeing, I think in particular, a post from Elon Musk saying that, Kamala Harris has promised to govern as a communist from day one. And then this kind of like AI-generated picture of Kamala in a communist outfit. That goes beyond just like a campaign ad where you're saying these policies are communist-like or some of the attacks you've seen from Trump and to something that more feels like what we would associate with like disinformation type accounts. And the other thing he did yesterday that was also quite strange, I thought, is he kind of boosted an incel adjacent post or a post that was arguing that the world would be better off if only high status males were in charge. So again, it's really crossing into kind of, far right posting 24/7. I think this is just the consequence of Elon Musk, getting involved in the presidential race. And like he's effectively part of Donald Trump's campaign. And so he's posting that way at this point, although posting in his kind of idiosyncratic, extra provocative way.
Now, Kurt, I suppose his argument's going to be that, well, everyone's going to know that my post of Kamala there is just a parody. I will say, having taken a very quick glance at the post, there doesn't seem to be anything particularly real about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the argument. Humor, right? He's used this sort of humor defense repeatedly since taking over that, like, hey, as long as it's funny or it's intended to be funny, it should be fine. I think more than anything, I think what this weekend has just reinforced for me is just the way in which he is no longer even pretending to keep his thumb off the scale of politics, right? You remember when he first took over X, it was very much like, hey, I'm not going to, turn this into a political
The arbiter
hammer.
needs to be neutral.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And it's just like we've come so far from that kind of initial takeover and initial pledge or promise or at least framing. It's just striking, right?
Part of the problem here is with Musk's philosophy of free speech. This idea that the platforms shouldn't make any decisions, should be all up to the government, and platforms should just be crazy free-for-alls and then let the government step in. Number one, it creates these standoffs, right, where we're talking about in Brazil, but it also creates, all of a sudden, Elon Musk, the CEO of one of these major companies, is acting like, any old poster. I don't know, it's just further eroding trust, and it's almost like daring governments to step in and try to make rules. And so I don't know. I mean, I think there are critiques from both the left and the right over how Facebook managed misinformation and disinformation. But it doesn't. It's not clear to me that this is an improvement. In any metric.
To Max's point, whatever's legally allowed is fair game. If it's not legal, we're going to take it down. That's not exactly how he does it anyway, right? When he wants something removed, the account that's following his private plane, if he wants to take, what is it? The word cis, right, is now considered a slur in the U.S. if you're on X or something like that. I mean, the point being is that he's very much hey, anything goes as long as it's legal, and with a major caveat being that also if I'm okay with that thing being on X, because if not, personally, I will make a change as well. And I think that's the big issue, is he's not truly free speech absolutist within the law. He says that, but then he makes his own decisions when they suit him, and I think that's where people get frustrated.
He puts his own spin on it. He also, Max, I believe, continues to eeks about his potential future role in a Donald Trump administration.
Yeah, I mean, he's disputed a lot of the reporting, including reporting that's based on the actual filings and so on. But in terms of his support of Donald Trump, and kind of attempted to play it down in various ways. But this is one thing he's genuinely seems excited about. He's ready to serve if called upon. It's I don't know what the opposite of a Sherman-esque denial is, but that's what it is. He's basically raised his hand and said, I want to be the, efficiency czar. Which, given Elon Musk has some pretty out there views on the government, it's hard to imagine any of this actually coming to pass. I don't think that Elon Musk will be giving broad leeway to close federal agencies, but he definitely has that appetite.
All right, we're going to move on to the launch of the beta version of XTV for Android. Man, I've been waiting for this, dude.
Man, Kurt, I'm sure feels the same way, but
so I'm
what a pivot.
Remind me what exactly XTV is. This is where we go to watch porn? Is that
Yes.
Is that
but now you can watch porn on the big screen at home. It is essentially the idea of video being a big thing on X, and that what Elon Musk has wanted pretty much since he got to the company was to have some sort of app on your TV to make it easier to stream these shows, Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk interviewing Trump or whatever else. It's kind of a weird and confused set of ideas that feels at once kind of caught up in the past, hey, it's not real unless it's on the big screen in your living room. Yeah. And also sort of out of touch with the realities of how video is consumed. But anyway, yeah, there's on Android TV, which is one of the operating systems for TVs. It has modest market share. I saw figures around 6% market share, so not a huge amount, but you can download, you can get this X TV app and watch that great hard-hitting Tucker interview or whatever else, in the comfort of your home on the big screen.
Kurt, expectations from you for XTV?
I think it's a huge waste of time and resources for the company, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Max sort of flicked at it, right? This isn't what I don't know anybody who's clamoring to bring the X videos they see scrolling through their phone and blast them onto the 60-inch TV in their living room. So I just think
Well, can I just say for 1 second, Kurt? Hold on. Let me just say for 1 second. As being the old man in the room here, I will have to say, as I watch my daughter or my nephews and nieces, and they watch everything, games and everything, just on their phones, and I'm like, that is slightly unsatisfying to me. Like I need a big, come on, give me a big screen or something. So I'm all over XTV.
This is what I was going to say. This would make sense if there was a huge library of high quality videos that were worthy of being on your TV, right? Like, let's pretend this whole Don Lemon, Tucker Carlson, WWE, whatever, the big push into premium video that they announced earlier this year, like, let's pretend that worked and they had 30 different shows. Okay, like, sure, you want to watch your Tucker Carlson show on the big TV? Like, David, you go for that, and you can kick back with your popcorn on the couch.
Yeah.
There's like two shows. So I'm just saying, when I said it, I thought it was a waste of time and resources. It's because they don't have the content that really merits going on a live TV to spend the time on this, in my opinion.
And they will not be acquiring content elsewhere, like they can't Netflix style.
They'd like to. But it's easy to want to do that stuff. I mean, this stuff is incredibly expensive. This is not a company that has a lot of extra cash. It's competitive, right? Like Amazon, Apple, all these other companies, they want that high quality stuff too. They're not just going to let X have it. So I just think it's, I don't know, in the universe of things they could do, I just don't think it's a good space.
You got me, Kadar. You convinced me. Max, we never should have brought it up.
And David, you made a good point, which is like with the porn joke, which is that if anyone has tried to search, look at X on a workplace computer, you are aware of the dangers of looking at X on a large screen. It's just it is not associated with the kind of content that Kurt is talking about. So you're not just talking about the technical challenge of building apps for all these platforms, set-top box. That market is really, really fractured. There are all these players. You're going to have to build all these different apps. You have to work on all these different business deals. And you're going to have to change the fact that most people don't see X the way that Elon Musk wants us to see it.
There we are. We're gonna end this episode.
Wait, I don't get to pitch my show here?
Well, what is your show? What? All
right. So I was just trying to think about what content that might work. Kurt's talking about
the cage match.
The fact that we don't have Tulsi's. That we, the content offerings right now are limited. And I'm trying to think okay, what is realistic? Because Elon Musk doesn't have Zaslav dollars. He's not going to spend huge amounts of money to buy content. Okay. He's not going to pay Oprah $1 zillion. But you have the brand problem. So what works on X is Elon Musk, right? We all agree Elon Musk content.
Totally.
So basically keeping up with the Kardashians, but Elon Musk's various complicated family arrangements. Just call it repopulating the Earth or something. And, just go full reality. He already kind of wants to be a Kardashian. Let's do it. I think it'd be a huge hit.
It actually would be a huge hit. It would be an enormous hit.
That's what's crazy is that would be.
If Linda Yaccarino or anyone else from X is listening, Max Schaff.
Linda, call me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and so you don't like my cage match? You would start with the cage match. No. Actually, scrap that. You would need to build to the cage match, Musk versus Zuckerberg. But you'd slowly build.
I hadn't thought. I honestly, to be, maybe it's just Labor Day brain. I hadn't considered the cage match, but that is also a really good idea. I mean, right.
that would put this app on a must download list for me if we were getting to watch Elon Zuck. And then on top of that, let me paint a picture for you, David, just real quickly, since Max got to pitch his show. We've, lightheartedly mocked my high school football career, but imagine kicking back on the couch with a bowl of popcorn and pulling those highlights up and watching those on the big screen. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to picture a better way to spend a holiday weekend.
Whoa. So my understanding, nothing
15-year-old high school football clips or something?
No, he was 18.
Yeah, that's right. 17, but that's fine.
All right, Kurt, we're gonna Max and I are gonna consider that one. We're gonna get back to you never on it. But thank you for pitching. Max, Kurt, thanks for joining.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Naomi Shavin and Rehan Harmansi are our senior editors. The idea for this very show also came from Rehan. Blake Maples handles engineering, and we get special editing assistance from Jeff Grocott. Our supervising producer is Magnus Henriksen. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taka Yasuzawa and Alex Sugiura. Brendan Francis Newnham is our executive producer, and Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. A big thanks, as always, to our supporter, Joel Weber. I'm David Papadopoulos. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. See you next week.